Where do you even start after something like that? The Last of Us has graced television screens once again this week with Season 2, Episode 2, Through the Valley, and it's a big one. Probably the biggest one there ever has been or ever will be. Last week, the show kicked off its second season with a solid outing that took a cautious approach, moving certain pieces into place. This episode, however, was far more explosive. It was completely at the opposite end of the scale, and it's already paid off some of the things that was set in motion earlier in the season. There was a little fallout from Ellie and Joel's antics from the night before, while Jackson had its hands full with a growing infected problem, but these aren't the things anyone's going to be talking about come the rolling of the credits. We can't go on as if there hasn't just been one of the biggest TV moments of the year. There's plenty of ups to come, as you might expect, ranging from moments that were brought directly to the show from the game, also rectifying a down from last week, and of course there's going to be the elephant in the room. It wasn't a perfect episode, and so I do have a gripe to start with. Now, folks, needless to say, spoiler alert for Through the Valley. We're going to go through everything that we liked and give it an up, everything that we didn't like and give it a down. Will you join me for all the ups and downs for The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2, Through the Valley? We're going to start with a down, and that's a bad change. We raised the point in the ups and downs for episode 1 that it's important not to dwell too much on changes the show makes from the games. However, it's hard not to when said change does diminish a certain moment or a scene overall. In reality, look, it's a minor change that didn't impact the episode on a huge level, but swapping out who the characters were on patrol with left audiences on the show with less of Ellie and Dina together on screen. While Dina was out with Joel and Ellie was with Jesse in Through the Valley, the game had Tommy with Joel and Ellie with Dina, later to be joined by Jesse. Not only having Ellie and Dina already proven that they will be thoroughly entertaining when across Season 2, there was some much deeper character and relationship development that was missed here, in my opinion. However, there was another effect this change had that actually helped the episode. So good was this chapter in the story that it only gets one down, and even that down is only kind of half a down. And so up a good change. Yes, okay, audiences missed out on Dina and Ellie getting high and taking their relationship to the next level among Eugene's plants, but what putting Dina with Joel did do was free up Tommy to stay in Jackson for the attack of the infected. More on the attack itself I'm going to go through in a minute, but this entry is about Gabriel, Luna, and Tommy. Only a supporting character throughout the show up until now, Through the Valley gave the character license to step into the driver's seat like never before. Surprisingly, given the earth-shattering events that took place in this episode away from Jackson, Tommy stole the show. He stepped up as leader in Jackson, he organized the defenses and ran the show when the big moment came. It's a testament to the show that a character who enjoyed barely any screen time in Season 1 when compared to some of the others can step into such a vital role just 2 episodes into the second season. There will be more to come from Tommy as the weeks go on, and this performance has just sent excitement for that through the roof. Another up that I have is the fact that it was not a slow burner at all. Season 1 of The Last of Us was comprised of 9 episodes, which was the perfect length to hit every beat of the story while being able to expand on certain elements a little more than the source material. Season 2, however, has just 7 episodes and is adapting a bigger story in The Last of Us Part 2. Yes, this may well be split across a third and possibly even a 4th season, but there has been enough footage shown in the trailers to know that things will get rather deep into the chain of events before the end of that 7th episode. The first entry in Season 2, Future Days, was without question a slow burner. The scene had to be set, and so this wasn't a bad thing in its own right, but with just 6 episodes left, it meant that the follow-up couldn't afford to do anything but blow the doors off the entire story. And it's fair to say that this was one of the biggest, boldest, and most explosive episodes the showrunners have ever produced, and it was exactly what was needed. You can possibly expect episode 3 to dial it back again a little, but such a second episode means that would be fine. Another up that I have is that it's a visually stunning episode. For much of The Last of Us, the show has done nothing short of a stellar job in bringing the world created in the games to life. Every environment, every city, and even every building felt like it had been untouched by true civilization for 20 years, and it was rightly applauded. There's nothing wrong with the visuals of Season 2's opener, but the fact that it was set for the most part within the walls of Jackson meant audiences knew what to expect from the aesthetic. Episode 2, however, moved the action into the snowy mountains, and some of the shots, the scenery, and the imagery were simply impeccable. There was a touch of winter throughout the latter stages of Season 1, but nothing quite like this. Then there was the horde of the infected. With so many bodies moving, it would have been almost understandable for the quality of the CGI to dip a little, since this was easily the biggest army of zombies the show has dealt with yet. However, every detail, from the runners to the bloaters, looked incredible. Shoddy visuals could have really taken the sting out of much of this episode, but that wasn't the case. Oh, definitely an up is another Ashley Johnson cameo. It's always fun to see TV or film adaptations throw a little love to those who worked so hard to bring the original source material to life. The Last of Us Season 1 brought in Troy Baker, Jeffrey Pierce, and Ashley Johnson, the original voices for Joel, Tommy, and Ellie respectively, for a single episode cameo in Season 1, while Marlene was played by Merle Dandridge, who voiced her in the game. And even the series composer Gustavo Santaolalla played a musician at the New Year's party in episode 1 of Season 2. Though Johnson had already appeared as Ellie's mother last season, she was brought back again in Through the Valley, but not in the way you might expect. Keen-eared fans would have recognized the voice singing during the final moments of the episode, a hauntingly beautiful song only made better by the fact it was sung by Johnson. Hell, even for those who haven't played the games and would have no reference to what Ellie's voice sounded like, Johnson's got a beautiful voice, and it was a strong way to close out an episode that would leave fans' jaws on the floor. Another up is Ellie and Joel's complex relationship. Because after everything that they went through together in Season 1, from total strangers to trying to kill each other to essentially the most important person in each other's lives, it was difficult to see just how far Joel and Ellie had drifted apart. That's the thing about time jumps, is that it allows for dynamics to be completely changed at the snap of a finger. That's not to say that this development has to come out of nowhere, since Ellie clearly never believed him about what happened at Salt Lake, but it still stung. By the start of Through the Valley, things had only deteriorated worse after the scuffle at the party the night before, but Ellie offered up some hope. She told Jesse that no matter how bad things looked, no matter what happened, she was still Ellie and he was still Joel. This was her way of saying that he was like a father to her, that she loved him and that she always would. It was a touching moment that only strengthened their bond together, but also made what happened later all the more painful. My next up is going to the chase scene for Abby. No longer can the claim be made that The Last of Us doesn't feature enough infected. There was a quite literally immeasurable amount of zombies in this episode, but at no point did it feel gratuitous. It felt genuinely terrifying. After Abby left her friends in the lodge, she slipped down a snowy hill and woke up what was a sleeping army of infected. Naturally, she ran and they chased, but this was so much more than just a sprint. As Abby looked to escape, she fled down a thin passage between a mesh fence and a building. Possibly not the greatest idea in the world, but when you've only one option, you've only one option. The fence was swarmed, bent, and broken and caved in on Abby, who had to crawl through the claustrophobic space on her belly while being clawed at the entire time. The character didn't feature much in episode 1, so this was the first real action she'd seen, and it was real heart in the mouth stuff. It's also worth saying that this was brought to life superbly and also identically to the game, something that should be absolutely applauded. So another obvious up is the infected attack. In the ups and downs for last week's episode, Future Days, we gave it down to a big change from the source material, and that was cordyceps making its way into Jackson. However, it was a tentative down, and we did reserve the right to be proven wrong over the coming weeks. And it's a good job we did say that, because the infected attack on Jackson was absolutely outstanding. You may have thought that this episode wouldn't have needed such a big spectacle given what happened next, but this was some of the best The Last of Us has ever produced. From the beginning, with Tommy going through the plan should the bell ring to warn of infected encroaching, to the fight outside the gates and the huge bloater ultimately breaching the walls and bringing the fight to Main Street, it was impossible to look away. This gave the vibes of something you'd see in a 9th episode of a season of Game of Thrones, the best of the best. It was compelling, it was tense, and because it was an original plot point for the show, it was completely unpredictable, even for those already well-versed in the story. My next up, they did it. There've been lingering questions about how this was going to be done for years at this point. Would the show follow the games? Would it hold off for something of a season-ending cliffhanger? Or would they even do it at all? After waiting for so long, we finally have our answers, and Joel Miller is dead. Television can evoke a wide range of emotions for an audience, but there's nothing quite like seeing the death of the story's main character. It's not hyperbole to say that this is genuinely up there alongside the death of Ned Stark, again from a 9th episode of season 1 of Game of Thrones. Everything about this scene was perfect. The build-up was slow and deliberate, allowing the audience to agonizingly realize what was coming, and there was no miraculous last-minute escape. His death was brutal, as Abby clearly hit him so many times with the golf club that it snapped in two, allowing her a sharp instrument in which to end it all. As always, Pedro Pascal was fantastic as Joel, but this scene belonged not only to Caitlin Deaver's Abby, but to Bella Ramsey as well. You could argue that there will never be a more important scene in The Last of Us than this, and they put it as brilliantly as they could. They delivered a blinder of a performance, and we're still reeling. On that cheerful note, that's the end of this week's episode. What did you think? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching along. Please make sure to drop a like on this video. Please make sure to subscribe as well. We will of course be back to you with all of the ups and downs for episode 3 next week. I have been Sean Ferrick for What Culture. You have been awesome. Please make sure you're following us on the various socials or at What Culture. I'm at Sean Ferrick. Until I see you again, I need a hug.